The workshop smells like sawdust and motor oil. I stand here most mornings now, running my hand along the workbench where my father taught me to sand wood properly. Taught me that honest work with your hands means something. The fluorescent light above me flickers. I keep meaning to replace it. Through the small window, I can see the house across the street. 3-car garage. Solar panels. The kind of place Connor used to sketch in his notebooks when he was 12, dreaming about when I make it big. He made it big. All right. The house he lived in before the penthouse in Palo Alto, the one with the view of the bay that cost more than most people make in a lifetime that's gone now. Madison took it in the divorce. The Tesla Roadster, the one he showed me exactly once, parked at some restaurant where I couldn't pronounce half the menu items. That's gone too. Repossessed, I heard. And that tech company he built? The one that made him a millionaire 47 times over on paper? Well, that's a longer story. I'm David Morrison, 64 years old. These days I fix things. Leaky faucets, stuck doors. Built a deck for the Johnsons last month. It's not glamorous, but I've never minded getting my hands dirty. My father was a carpenter. His father before him worked in a factory. We're not the kind of family that produces tech CEOs and venture capitalists. Except somehow, we did. Connor was always brilliant. Even as a kid, he could take apart a radio and put it back together before dinner. Got a scholarship to Stanford, dual major in computer science and business. Met Madison there. Her father owns a chain of luxury hotels across California. When Connor graduated, I was so proud I couldn't speak during the ceremony. Just sat there with tears running down my face while his mother squeezed my hand. His mother, Sarah, she passed 11 years ago, cancer. Connor was 27 then, already working at his second startup. He came to the funeral, stayed for 2 days, then flew back to San Francisco because the Series B funding round couldn't wait. I understood. I did. He was building something. That's what young people do. They build. After Sarah died, I sold our house. Too many memories. Too many empty rooms. Bought a small place in Sunnyvale, one of the older neighborhoods where houses still have actual yards, and you can hear your neighbors laughing through the windows on summer evenings. Started doing handyman work. Kept busy. Connor and I talked maybe once a month. Video calls where he'd be checking his phone, messaging someone about term sheets or cap tables or some other thing I didn't understand. But I kept up with him. Followed his company, Technova Solutions. Read every article. Watched every interview he gave to Bloomberg and TechCrunch. Learned terms like enterprise SaaS platform and AI-driven analytics, even though I had no idea what half of it meant. He was solving problems for big companies, making their data systems smarter or something. The important thing was, he was succeeding. 3 years ago, Connor called me at 7 in the morning. Unusual. He never called that early. "Dad," he said, and I could hear the exhaustion in his voice. We're about to lose everything. Turned out Technova needed $8 million to survive. Their biggest client had just backed out of a contract. Payroll was due in 2 weeks. Investors were getting cold feet. Connor had mortgaged his condo, maxed out every credit card. Madison's father had already loaned them $2 million and refused to put in another cent. "I don't know what to do," Connor said, and for a moment he sounded like he did when he was 8 years old, coming to me after he'd crashed his bicycle and scraped both knees. "Everything we've built, it's all about to disappear." I made some coffee, thought about it. Then I called my financial advisor. See, people make assumptions. They see a man in work boots carrying a toolbox, and they assume that's all he is. They don't ask questions. Didn't ask why I could afford to retire at 53 and chose not to. Didn't wonder where the money came from when I paid cash for my house. Didn't think about what happens when a successful aerospace engineer sells his patents for communication satellite systems to 3 different governments and 6 private companies. I wasn't always a handyman. 20 years ago, I was Dr. David Morrison with a PhD from MIT and a corner office at Lockheed Martin. Held 11 patents. Made quite a bit of money before I decided corporate life was slowly killing me. Before I decided I'd rather build decks and fix sinks than sit in meetings about meetings. Sarah knew. Connor never did. After she died, I never found the right moment to tell him. He was so busy proving himself. Didn't want him to think anything he achieved was because of me. But watching my son about to lose everything he'd worked for, that was different. I wired the $8 million through an investment firm. Set it up as a venture capital injection from something called Morrison Ventures, LLC. Took an 18% equity stake in Technova Solutions and a seat on the board of directors, which I held through a proxy. Connor never knew. Thought it was just another Silicon Valley VC firm that saw potential. He called to tell me about the miracle funding that came through. "We're saved, Dad," he said, laughing with relief. "Some VC firm believes in us. We're going to make it." "That's wonderful, son," I told him. "I'm proud of you." Over the next 3 years, I attended every board meeting via conference call, voice disguised through my lawyer, Marcus Webb. I watched Connor grow the company, helped steer decisions through Marcus, pushed for the hires that mattered, blocked the acquisitions that would have diluted everything Connor built. When Technova needed another $6 million for expansion, Morrison Ventures put in $4 million. Took my equity to 23%. Then, when Connor bought back some shares to retain control, it settled at 18.7%. Connor thought he was building his company alone. In truth, we were building it together. He just didn't know it. Last November, Technova went public. IPO priced at $38 per share. Opened at $52. By end of day, Connor was worth $93 million on paper. Madison was worth about the same through her shares. The company was valued at $1.8 billion. Connor called me that evening, shouting over champagne and celebration noise. "We did it, Dad. We're public. Can you believe it? I'm so happy for you, son. Listen, we're having a celebration party next month, December 15th. Big thing. All our investors and employees. At the Fairmont in San Jose. You should come." I hesitated. "Connor, I don't think—" "Come on, Dad. It's important to me. Please." Something in his voice made me say yes. I should have known better. December 15th. I put on my nicest outfit, khaki pants, button-down shirt, a blazer I'd bought for Sarah's funeral and hadn't worn since. Drove to the Fairmont. The parking lot was full of Teslas and Mercedes and BMWs. The valet looked at my 2015 Toyota Camry like I'd driven up in a tractor. The ballroom was everything you'd expect. Crystal chandeliers, open bar, waiters circulating with appetizers that probably cost more than my water bill. Screens showing Technova's stock price and the company's growth charts. 200 people in designer clothes, talking about disruption and market cap and exit strategies. I stood near the back, nursing a ginger ale, feeling like I was wearing a costume to someone else's party. Connor spotted me after about 20 minutes. He was in the center of the room, surrounded by people, wearing a suit that probably cost $3,000. Madison was next to him in a silver dress, holding a champagne flute, laughing at something someone said. He waved me over. I walked through the crowd. People glanced at me, then looked away. I didn't fit. I knew it. They knew it. "Everyone," Connor said, loud enough for the group around him to hear. About 15 people turned. "This is David. He's the guy who fixes things." A few polite smiles. Someone asked, "Oh, are you with the hotel maintenance?" Connor laughed. No. He paused, and I saw something flicker across his face. "Embarrassment? He does handyman work. Odd jobs. That kind of thing." Madison touched his arm. "Connor?" "What? I'm just explaining." He turned back to the group. "Anyway, David taught me that hard work matters. Salt of the earth type, you know? Real hands-on guy." One of the men, maybe a venture capitalist, judging by his confidence, nodded. "That's great. We need more people who aren't afraid to work with their hands." Connor smiled. "Exactly. Not everyone can be in tech, right? Someone has to fix the toilets." A few uncomfortable laughs. I stood there, said nothing, just looked at my son, my brilliant, successful son, who had just introduced me to his colleagues as the guy who fixes things. Not my father. Not even David Morrison. Just the help. Madison was staring at Connor now with an expression I couldn't quite read. One of the other women in the group, someone I'd later learn was a board member from another company, looked at me with something like pity. "Well," I said quietly, Congratulations on the IPO, Connor. I'm proud of what you've built. I set down my ginger ale and walked out. In the parking lot, sitting in my Camry, I called Marcus Webb. David, he answered. Everything okay? I need you to schedule an emergency board meeting, I said. 2 weeks from now, and I need to attend in person this time. There was a pause. Are you sure about that? Very sure. What do you want on the agenda? I watched a couple walk past my car, the man in a tuxedo, the woman laughing. Through the hotel windows, I could see the celebration continuing. Could see Connor, holding court, the center of attention. Executive compensation review, I said. Specifically, Connor Morrison's stock options and continued role as CTO. Marcus was quiet for a moment. David, think carefully about this. I've thought about nothing else for the past hour. This is personal. Yes, it is. If you do this, there's no taking it back. You understand that? I understood. God help me. I understood exactly what I was about to do. Schedule the meeting, Marcus. The next 2 weeks passed slowly. I worked, fixed Mrs. Patterson's kitchen cabinets, installed a new water heater for the new ends, built shelves in someone's garage, kept my hands busy so my mind wouldn't wander to what I was planning. Connor didn't call, didn't even text to thank me for coming to his party. I shouldn't have been surprised. We'd grown distant over the years. But there was a difference between distant and whatever that was. Standing in a room full of his success, being introduced as the guy who fixes things. Not even my father. The board meeting was December 29th, held at Technova's headquarters in Mountain View. Glass and steel building, open floor plan, standing desks everywhere. A receptionist who couldn't have been older than 25 smiled at me when I walked in. Can I help you? David Morrison. I'm here for the board meeting. She checked her tablet, frowned. I don't see you on the Try Morrison Ventures. Her eyes widened. Oh, yes, Mr. Morrison. I'll let them know you're here. Conference room is on the 3rd floor. The conference room overlooked the parking lot where Tesla's company headquarters loomed in the distance. 6 board members sat around the table. Connor was there, looking confused. Madison sat next to him. She saw me first, and I watched her face change as understanding slowly dawned. Dad, Connor said. What are you doing here? I took a seat at the table. Marcus stood behind me, setting down a briefcase. One of the other board members, Richard Chen, cleared his throat. I think there's been some confusion. This meeting is for board members and key executives only. Mr. Morrison is a board member, Marcus said calmly. He holds the Morrison Ventures seat, 18.7% equity stake in Technova Solutions. The room went silent. Connor was staring at me. What? 3 years ago, I said, my voice steady. Technova needed $8 million. You called me at 7 in the morning, said you were going to lose everything. I looked at my son. Morrison Ventures provided that funding, and the additional capital injections that followed. No, Connor said. No, that was Morrison Ventures is a VC firm from... Morrison Ventures is me, Connor. It's always been me. Madison had her hand over her mouth. One of the other board members was flipping through papers, checking. Richard Chen looked like he'd been punched. Why? Connor whispered. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted you to build something yourself. Because I didn't want you to think any of your success came from your father, the guy who fixes things. The words hung in the air. Connor flinched. Mr. Morrison, Richard said carefully, why are we here today? I opened the folder Marcus had prepared. I'm calling for a vote on several matters. First, the immediate suspension of Connor Morrison's stock option vesting schedule pending performance review. Second, a motion to remove Connor Morrison from his role as CTO, effective immediately. Third, restructuring of executive compensation packages across the board. You can't do that, Connor said, but his voice was shaking. As the largest single shareholder, I can call for these votes. Marcus? Marcus distributed documents. The other board members read in silence. Connor's face had gone white. Dad, he said. Dad, please, what are you doing? I looked at my son, remembered him at 8 years old with scraped knees, At 12, with his notebooks full of dreams. At 22, graduating from Stanford. At 27, barely holding it together at his mother's funeral. Teaching you something Sarah tried to teach you years ago, I said quietly. That who you are matters more than what you've achieved. That you don't introduce your father as the guy who fixes things while you're standing in a room celebrating success he helped build. This is insane, Madison said. You're destroying your own son over one comment at a party? No, I said. I'm correcting a mistake I made 3 years ago. I should have let his company fail. Should have let him learn what it means to lose everything. Instead, I enabled him to become someone who's embarrassed by his own father. The vote took an hour. Lot of discussion. Lot of legal review. In the end, it came down to this. 4 board members voted with me. 2 abstained. Connor's stock options, worth about $47 million, were frozen pending a performance review that would never come. His role as CTO was terminated. He'd remain on the board as a member, but his executive authority was gone. He could have fought it, could have sued, but the documentation was airtight, and fighting his largest shareholder would have destroyed the company's stock price. His lawyers advised him to accept it. Connor didn't look at me when he left the meeting. Madison walked out beside him, her face hard. At the door, she turned back. I hope you're happy, she said. I wasn't. Not even close. That was 4 months ago. The news leaked, of course. Bloomberg ran a story about mysterious founder conflicts at Technova. Stock price dropped 22% in one day. Recovered some, but the damage was done. Connor sold most of his remaining shares at a significant loss. Filed for divorce a month later. Apparently Madison's family didn't want to be associated with someone who'd been ousted from their own company. The penthouse, the cars, the lifestyle, all of it gone. I heard through mutual friends that Connor moved to Portland, took a senior engineering position at a smaller company, making good money, but nothing like before, starting over at 38. He hasn't called me. I haven't called him. I still fix things. Repaired a fence last week. Installed new gutters for the Hendersons. Tomorrow I'm supposed to help someone with their deck. The boards are rotting. Needs a complete rebuild. My hands are steady when I work. That's good. Means I'm not thinking about board meetings or stock options or the look on my son's face when he realized who I was. But at night, sitting in my small house, I think about it. Wonder if Sarah would understand. Wonder if I did the right thing. I taught Connor a lesson. That's what I tell myself. Taught him that you don't discard people because they don't fit your image of success. That a father deserves respect regardless of whether he wears work boots or Italian leather shoes. That the man who taught you to ride a bicycle and helped you with calculus homework and held you when your mother died, that man deserves to be called your father, not the guy who fixes things. But the cost, God, the cost. I destroyed my son's life to prove a point. Took everything he'd built, yes, with my help, but he didn't know that. Thought he'd done it alone and crushed it because my pride was hurt, because he embarrassed me at a party. Was I teaching him a lesson? Or was I just a bitter old man who couldn't stand seeing his son succeed without acknowledging where he came from? Marcus calls sometimes. Asks if I'm okay. Asks if I want to reach out to Connor. Says it's not too late to fix this. But I don't know how to fix this. I know how to fix leaky pipes and broken cabinets. I know how to sand wood and lay foundations. I don't know how to fix what I've broken with my son. The fluorescent light above my workbench flickers again. I should really replace it. Tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Through the window, I can see the house across the street. 3-car garage, solar panels, a family. The kind of life Connor used to dream about. The kind of life I took from him because he hurt my feelings. I run my hand along the workbench. My father's hands taught my hands. My hands taught Connor's hands. But I never taught him the most important thing. That tools and skill and honest work mean something, sure. But being a good person means more. I failed at teaching him that. And when I tried to teach him at 38, I used the cruelest method possible. Sometimes I think about calling him, apologizing, telling him I made a mistake, that I let anger and hurt pride drive me to do something unforgivable, that I'm sorry. But what would I say? Sorry I destroyed your company? Your marriage? Your life? Because you didn't introduce me properly at a party? What apology could possibly cover that? So I don't call. I work. I fix things for other people because I can't fix what I broke with my son. The workshop smells like sawdust and motor oil and regret. The light flickers. Tomorrow, I'll replace it. Tomorrow, I'll fix something. But some things, once broken, stay broken. Some lessons cost more than they're worth. I taught Connor that you don't forget where you came from, that you honor your father. But in teaching him that lesson, I forgot something myself. That being right doesn't matter if you lose everything that makes being right worthwhile. I'm 64 years old. I've built satellites and held patents and made millions of dollars. I've raised a brilliant son who built a company worth $1.8 billion. I've taught him hard work and perseverance and ambition. But I never taught him that I loved him more than my pride, that I'd rather be the guy who fixes things forever if it meant keeping my son. And now it's too late. The light flickers. I should fix it, but tonight I think I'll just sit here in the dimness, in the smell of sawdust and motor oil, and everything I've broken that I can't repair. Tomorrow. I'll fix it tomorrow. But we both know I probably won't.